Skoxy Studio and Zgoodle Production present.
Now we're at the square. We're sat on chairs around the table, which was brought to us. There's you, Katja is on your left, Honzik is on your right, and Michal is sitting across the table.
Yeah, that's when we were supposed to draw. I remember we were supposed to draw, and you kept asking me to draw the black tower, and I kept explaining I didn't know what to draw. That you wouldn't be able to tell what it is anyway.
I know, I think you did quite well in the end. You had some grapes to eat, remember? And how did you find the drawing?
Well, quite all right. Although, to me, as a sightless person, it is quite unimaginable. Maybe not for me when you're supposed to draw something that you don't know the looks of.
Yeah.
But when you're supposed to draw something like that.
Michal is drawing a hand in the middle of the paper. Why do you think he's drawing a hand?
I have no idea.
I thought it was perhaps because he had to depend on his sense of touch since he could not see. He held his guide by the hand, and in the other hand was the stick. What do you think?
It is possible. I don't know what he had in mind. I don't really try to imagine what they meant.
You can depict feelings and impressions by a drawing. It doesn't have to be a precise shape. Maybe just a wavy line or some kind of other shape to express emotions and, like that.
So I've heard, but I'm not too sure whether you can actually recognize anything in a sightless person's picture.
Now Katja is being helped by Kryslas to draw the steps.
That's where I also stroke the dog, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, although it isn't in the picture yet. But you can now clearly see what everybody drew. Katja is drawing the steps and Honzik is drawing the tower and the shining sun. It was quite a lovely day, wasn't it?
That's right, it felt quite warm. It's most definitely worth it, because now they'll know how it feels. And they'll be able to imagine much better than ordinary people what it's like to be sightless.
Now Michal is feeling Honzik's arm, head and face in a comical way, trying to locate him. Now everybody's signing their pictures. You were using your signing slab, right?
That's right, I was using the slab.
It's helping you to write more easily, isn't it?
It's useful for the surname, but I can actually sign my first name without it.
It didn't work out the first time round, remember?
Yes, my pen wasn't working.
Now we're giving it another go. I've tried it on the palm of my hand. This one works at last, and your signature is now clearly visible. Everyone has signed their pictures, only Michal failed, because he happened to sign his name inside of a black line.
So we made it at last.
Oh, now the dog's run into the picture. He jumped on Michal and started licking his face. A long-haired girl wearing a fluttering skirt and eating ice cream is sitting down with us to pacify the dog.
The dog didn't want to be stroked, though. It was afraid.
It was a little puppy, the girl explained later. Do you remember what we were tempting it with?
No, I can't remember.
Grapes. We offered, the dog some grapes, or like one grape. What was its name? I think it was Oliva.
Oliva.
And then, when we sort of finished drawing, we chatted, didn't we?
Yeah, we talked about what it's like not to be able to see and how it feels to be sightless.
You're still eating grapes there. What's your impression of the whole process of shooting the film?
Well, I'm rather curious what the reactions will be when it's finally out. I don't know, I've never done this before. But, for example, I don't like to be photographed.
There's the flash, whereas the camera isn't so disturbing, is it?
It's not only that, it's that someone is taking a picture of me. I don't like that. You have no idea what you look like in that photograph. And you'll never know anyway. That's what I'm talking about. These are the kind of things that we, the sightless, will never see.
The Black Tower dominates České Budějovice. It was built as an individual monument next to the main square in the immediate vicinity of St. Nicholas's Church between 1549 and 1578. The lower 5 floors were built from blocks of stone in the Gothic style. The upper part, with a cupola and gallery, were finished in the Renaissance. Originally, it served as a watchtower and bell tower, but later it was opened to the public. It offers a marvellous view of the whole town, but particularly of the square. On its opening, the Black Tower was furnished with 7 bells, some of which have survived until the present day. Others have since been replaced. Currently, there are 6 bells in the tower. The largest and heaviest one is called Boomerin, which was made in 1723. It weighs 3.5 tons. Its diameter is 182 centimeters, and it is 147 centimeters tall. The other bells are called Marta, Octava, Maria, Stříbrný and Budvar. The tower has square foundations, each side measuring 11.6 meters. It is 71.9 meters tall. Its walls are 3.1 meters wide at the foundation and 1.96 at the clock house. It leans 36 centimeters away from the vertical axis. The gallery is 46 meters above the ground, with 225 steps leading up to it.
So now the camera is following the Black Tower from the foundations up to where it reaches into the sky. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 windows, 3 of which are large and 3 are small. There's a clock over them and you can spot the gallery further beyond the clock. Do you remember the point when we first entered the tower?
I do, it was quite cramped.
Yeah, yeah, we had to watch our heads, and there was also a step which we had to climb, wasn't there? Now pigeons are circling.
I remember how difficult it was to climb the stairs. That was an interesting experience, and how we fell.
Oh yes, oh yeah, I remember that too, yeah, that was funny.
Such a terra incognita it was to me. Totally unknown surroundings. What with the winding staircase and all?
The view.
What you see now is the two of us walking alongside the church. You were holding my hand, carrying your stick in the other hand. Do you remember this point?
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah.
I don't think I can remember what we were talking about.
I don't know either.
Now we're approaching the entrance. There's no one at the door. Everyone has sort of moved out of the shot and yeah. And now we're climbing the steps to go inside. Do you remember?
Not precisely.
It was where you were a bit scared perhaps at first, where the stairs were winding.
Oh, I see, the winding stairs. I was worried, like I told you then. The steps were uneasy to tread on.
Now there's a different shot, probably taking place while we were going up. You can see Alan with the other 3 blinded volunteers assembled outside. He's explaining the procedures. They've taken their sticks and their guides by the hand. Kaczka, led by Krysasz, have taken the lead and now they're entering the tower. Honza and Kavi come next and Wierka and Michal come last. You can see that Michal is slightly tense, probably because he's never been in a position where he couldn't see.
Well, it happens to me sometimes, too, when I don't know my whereabouts.
It must be hard for him to do this for the first time. Now you can see us walking up the spiral steps. It's obvious how narrow the steps are.
Yeah.
Now we're waiting for the others to catch up. We're stood on a big chunk of stone. I'm showing you the iron gate that bars the entrance to the room.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to go in, to see what was inside. Yeah.
And do you remember what was there?
No, I don't know.
I can't think that what it was either, but I actually believe it wasn't nothing in particular. Now we're passing a window. You must remember this one. Light was streaming through it into the room. Well, actually, it wasn't into the room. It was onto the steps where we were standing. And I remember you actually felt the sun rays. Now we're coming to the narrow aisle where you were feeling the walls. You're actually feeling them right now. You're touching the wall.
Yeah, I remember those walls. They were all scarred, full of ruts and furrows.
Yeah, that's the one. Now you're feeling the door and you're touching the door frame.
Yeah, I remember how I felt everything around me. I thought the wall must have been really, really old.
And now the other 3 pairs are walking up and I think actually they were doing quite fine. But we were always waiting for them somewhere up there on the landing, remember?
Yeah, that's right. They walked quite slowly.
When I think about it, it wasn't actually... We made it to the top quite fast, but since the 3 guys weren't used to being blind, it probably wasn't that fast. Now I can see Katja and Krysasz climbing the stairs, and Katja is feeling the wall with her free hand, so as not to fall over. That's probably a good way to do it.
Yeah. That's a good way, and railing is just as good.
But there was actually no railing along the spiral steps.
So then there's only the wall to depend on.
And now I see that all 3 sightless have the same idea. They're all using the wall for support and their guides are taking great care of them. Now they're approaching the narrow aisle with the rough wall and going through to the next room. And now it's us again, and do you know where we were actually going? I'm trying to fold your stick, but I'm totally hopeless, folding it entirely wrong because I'm not used to it.
Yeah. Was it perhaps where the food was laid out for us?
No, not really. Before that, we had to go another 2 or 3 floors before we got to the food. Now we're actually walking up the stairs. But now we've reached the high window, if you can remember. You stood underneath it, reaching up to see how high it is. There's some sunshine, some rays are touching your hair and your face, but we weren't actually entirely lit by it. Now you're walking along the wall, trying to imagine what the room looks like. How was it?
Well, it was really nice. It felt very old, almost as if you were in the 18th or 19th century.
And that was what it looked like, with all its old walls, old windows and stairs.
Yeah, the stairs were really creaky.
Didn't it make you feel a little afraid? Didn't you fear for your safety because of how ancient it was?
No, I wasn't afraid. It just felt like an ancient building. A really old building.
Yeah. And do you like visiting old such buildings? Do you like visiting old churches and castles?
Well, not really. I like to feel things with my hands, and I prefer smooth things to touch.
Now we've come to a window that has iron bars on it. Before I was helping you to place your hands on the railing. Now you're reaching up to sort of feel the bars. You want to see how big it is?
Yeah, it was massive.
Well, they're actually huge in order to give the tower some light. This is a beautiful shot now where the sun is shining on your face a little and it lit it and brightened your complexion. It's a lovely picture. Now we're going through the narrow spots where all the beams are overhead. We had to be careful sort of not to bang our heads there.
Yeah. I also felt the ceiling was really low. Yeah.
Yeah, now we're waiting for the others to catch up. They've appeared around the bend. Kachka and Krisas are in the front. How do you think they found the walking now?
They probably found it a little easier, since there was the railing to hold on to now.
It really was rather narrow in that spot. Now it's perfectly visible. It was sort of hard to walk through. I don't think the aisle had more than 1 meter in width, and you can see how they hardly fit in there. Now Honza comes, led by Kove, who is carrying his stick. And way back you can see Vierka and Michal approaching. They're walking slowly and carefully. Do you think they had an advantage over you in having been to the tower, like before?
Well, I do think it was an advantage. They had been there before and knew what the place looks like. Their imagination worked better because of it. They were able to imagine their whereabouts.
Now they're actually, they're looking at the same wall that we were looking at. They're moving about the same room, all 3 pairs, and now I think, now I think they're about to climb another flight of steps. Katja told me later that despite knowing the whole tower quite well, she was lost after the first flight of stairs. She had no idea which floor or which room she had found herself in, and she was really grateful for having Chrisas by her side.
Well, I can imagine the stairs were a problem. But what I had in mind was that they could imagine the rest of the building, because they have seen it before. Their mental picture of it is different from mine.
Chrisas told me that he hadn't been to the Black Tower for like 10 years.
Well, then he has perhaps forgotten a great deal.
But he was one of the guides. He led Katja. Now the two of them are walking alongside the big barred window. In every pair, the sightless person was holding onto the railing and the guide was holding onto their other hand. We're still waiting for them upstairs. We're at where the feast is laid out. We're sat down and there are candles all around us. Do you remember the chairs that were ready at the feast?
Yeah, I do. I remember.
Now we're at the table and I'm actually explaining what there is to eat. There are 3 types of sandwiches. Ham sandwiches, cheese sandwiches, and one with some kind of spread on them.
Oh, I know. I had one of each and some juice with it.
How was the juice?
Very nice. Orange juice, I think.
Now the candles throw light on everything and it looks very nice. There's a candelabrum, a menorah. Now there's a nice moment when every guide asks their sightless who is sitting down what they would like to eat or drink.
I remember that someone remarked, "So far, so good. As long as everyone serves me and pampers me."
Yeah, I know. I think it was Hansa who said that. He's actually sitting next to you. Now Kaveh has bought him a drink and is explaining what else there is to offer. Vierka is making a pick for Michal. And now I'm bringing you a sandwich and you're drinking juice. You were probably quite thirsty there, weren't you? It was quite a tiring climb. Quite a bit of juice was drunk there on that occasion. There was a jug on the table and we had to refill twice.
I think I had 2 cups of the orange juice and...
Alan gave you the blackcurrant one.
Yeah, blackcurrant one.
Now Vierka is bringing Michal his drink. So far everyone is drinking and hardly anyone has touched the food. I wonder if they were shy or what. At least you are eating. Oh, and Katja is too. She's picking at some grapes. What else was there for eating?
There was caviar too.
Did you like it?
Not very much, no.
Now there are some tourists passing by and they're looking at us inquisitively. And now comes a really nice shot where everyone is getting ready for a toast, remember?
Yeah, when we said cheers. Now, that was interesting. Because how can you chin glasses when you can't see, right? Really interesting.
Yeah, this is good. Everyone is sort of trying to meet the glasses of the others. They're worried about spilling the contents and not being able to make the toast at the same time. Some are already drinking, some are still seeking glasses to toast with, and everyone's laughing.
Yeah, I also remember how suddenly there was a big bang over our heads. And somebody, it might have been Honza, said, "I hope this wasn't one of us." Do you remember?
Yes. Yes, I remember that, but luckily it wasn't. And everybody's still trying to make a toast, and finally I think it managed that everyone has touched glasses with everyone else. And now we're drinking. Now everybody is leaving the room. You and I are in front again. You're holding the railing and we're walking upstairs. You'll probably remember how we couldn't continue because of all the tourists in our way.
Yeah, there were many people and we often had to wait.
Yeah, they were coming from both directions and we had to wait for a moment when we ourselves could climb up the stairs. How long do you think we could have waited there?
Some 10 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was about 10 minutes. Now we're walking along the very narrow corridor where we had to step from side to side. We're passing some tourists who sympathize with us and make way for us. And now we're approaching the bells, aren't we?
Yeah, those were really interesting. Saying how heavy they must have been.
We're getting there now. Katja and Krysas have just appeared. Hanzik and Kavi follow. Oh no, that's Verka and Michal. But Hanzik and Kavi are right in front of them. And right behind them a swarm of German tourists.
Tyhle schody nedělali kdyby to dělali jeden dlouhý schod poslední. Cože? Tady nic není.
Now Katja and Krysas are walking past the bells. They're coming to the point where we stood and listened to the bells chime.
They gave me quite a start.
Yeah, all the cyclists said so. The bells went off at noon precisely, and since nobody was looking at the watches, nobody expected it. And then it was noon, and there came a loud clang.
Yeah, and that frightened me. Yeah, it really did.
And now Alan is unlocking the little gate leading to the bells. The two of us are coming back down the little steps where we'd collapsed before. Alan has unlocked the gate, but instead of us, 4 tourists have piled in. Alan is showing them out. As soon as the tourists have left, we throng in. I'm showing the tourists which way to take. That they must climb up the stairs.
Yeah. Is this where I felt the bells?
That's the place. We're coming there right now. Now you're holding the heart of the bell and yeah. I'm leading your hands to show you the size of it.
Yeah, and wasn't it huge? My 2 arms were not enough to embrace it.
No, you could still embrace this one with difficulties, but then there was that other one which you simply couldn't. Remember the largest one?
Yeah, they were simply very loud and very big bells, weren't they?
The other one which you felt, I think it was called Marta. It weighs about 17.42 kilos and has about 145 centimeters in diameter. Next you see the bell called Budvar. It weighs over 1 ton and it's carrying the logo of Budějovice Budweiser beer. You probably know what I mean, don't you?
Well, although I can't picture the logo, I know what you mean, yeah.
Now we're gradually leaving the bell area. The bells are really ancient and sort of dusty, aren't they?
Yeah, true. They were dusty, you're right.
This is the moment just before the bells start to chime.
I know. We were standing around chatting.
Yeah, now they're leading a dialogue. Krysas is probably explaining to Katja what is about to happen, that the bells will soon chime at noon. Now we've left the first bell area and are climbing up the stairs to get to the next floor, where there are 3 more bells. Behind us there are Vierka and Michal, then comes Honzik and Kovi, and finally Krysas and Katja bring up the rear.
Personally, I like the smallest bell best, where Honza lifted me in the air in order to touch it.
Yeah, I think this shot must be coming any minute now. Underneath the steps there are gaps in the floor and you can actually see the floor below us, so for those people who suffer from vertigo, this is a real problem. Now I see Katja and Krysas walking up the stairs. There's an elderly tourist following the suit and he's obviously out of breath.
Doesn't surprise me.
We would stop now and then to catch our breath, but those who made it in one go must have been exhausted.
Yeah, quite a PE class it was, wasn't it?
Right you are. Thank God for those great breaks we took. We had great snacks too. Now we've arrived at the bells. You're standing by the window and it's throwing a light on your face. There was something in it against pigeons, I think.
Yeah, there were some bars there.
Not exactly bars, but rather more than like wire netting to keep the pigeons out. I remember you spending quite a while feeling this window. Now you've given the cameraman a wonderful smile. You're feeling the window, moving from left to right. The window was huge.
Yeah, it was.
How big do you think it could have been?
This isn't for me to say. I have no estimate. I don't know.
Now there's Alan in the view, watching you move around. Now we're retracing our steps along the window. And we're embarking on another flight of steps. Oh no, that's not true. We're walking along to see the other bells. There were 2 large bells on one floor below, Marta and Budvar. Those were the ones which chimed at noon. And now we're at the large open space where there were 3 smaller bells, where the small bell Maria was, the one which Kovi lifted you to feel it.
Yeah, I remember, that's right.
The one you said you liked so much.
Yeah, I did like it.
Now we're walking along the winding path where there are many obstacles. It's a maze. There were wooden beams overhead and now I'm showing them to you. We had to really be careful not to hit our heads, remember?
Yeah, I do remember. The ceiling was really low there, wasn't it?
Now we're looking at one of the smaller bells. You're laughing, so you probably like this one too. And now finally we're coming to Maria.
It was the smallest bell of them all.
Yeah, it was also hung the highest.
Yeah, Honza lifted me to touch it, and I banged my head on it.
Now I'm calling out to Honza to come over and lift you. Yeah, he's coming now. And I'm explaining the scheme to you meanwhile.
I was reluctant at first, but then he talked me into it. I was afraid that he might drop me, you know.
He's a strong guy, no worries. And now you've banged your head a little.
That was a blow. I hit my head on the bell or something.
Now you're feeling the beams and the rim of the bell. And he's still holding you. You have the best possible approach to it. You were the only one from the crowd who was able to feel it so thoroughly.
I liked the bell. I liked it a lot. It had an interesting shape. It was so nice.
Now we've left the bells and we're climbing along another flight of steps. Vierka and Michal are behind us. At this point, which part of the tower do you think we're at?
I believe we must be nearing the end. Not long to go, I think.
Yeah, terrific orientation. I also think we must be close to the end.
This was where we heard the wind blowing. And you said you thought we must be close, wasn't it?
All three pairs follow us with Vierka and Michal being right behind us. Behind them, Hansa and Kovi, and last but not least, Katja and Krysarz. We're waiting for everybody to join us. It took quite a while, didn't it?
So it did.
And now we're in that room where I read to you. Do you remember?
Yes, you read to me about the tower. Yeah.
I told you about the children, how they drew the town hall, the fountain and the Black Tower. I'm explaining to you about the Black Tower, and Vierka is explaining to Michal at the same time. And now there's Katja and Krysarz reading, and I'm reading the text to you. Now we're walking up the stairs again. It's a straight flight of steps, not the winding ones, so we find it easier to walk. Each of us is holding onto a railing on either side of the staircase.
We must be really close to the end now.
Yes, we are. You're looking great in that beige outfit you were wearing.
Do you think so? Now
Kovi
and Hansika, have appeared. We are already up there, and Alan is waiting along with us to welcome everybody. Now Katja and Krysarz have joined us, and I think that there's only one last flight to climb, you know, the one with that last step. You're laughing at something again.
I really can't remember anymore what it was.
And now we're ascending the last steps with a really narrow corridor. We could hardly fit in there, but now we've managed. Do you remember? Those last steps.
Right.
And now we're coming to the very last step, the 225th step.
And yeah, we made it. And when I walked outside, I was feeling the bars of the gallery, and I asked you if it was iron they were made of.
No, not yet, you aren't. But before we met the overseer of the tower, and he was telling us...
Yeah, he was telling us that even people on wheelchairs have been to the very top of the tower. Seriously, that's beyond me. How a person on a wheelchair could have got up.
Before you walked outside, we walked around that last room and we found that the guest book. Remember?
Yeah, the one which I signed. I wasn't using the slab though.
Yeah, but I think you did beautifully even without the slab. And now you're walking by yourself towards the light in the doorframe. You're all lit by the sunshine. It's where the fence is you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, the fence.
Now Alan has joined you on the gallery and he's explaining to you what you can see. From the top of this tower you can actually see the whole city, or at least the whole center.
Well, perhaps it's different for other people. But even if someone describes something to me in so many words, it's never the same as when I get to touch the object and feel what it's like.
The cast. Lenka Kroniková, spoken by Irena Chalupská, and her guide Teresa Lissa, spoken by Hanna Melsa. The sightless. Kateřina Tojberová, Michal Kubala, and Jan Dolný. Guides Věra Haladová, Petr Mužík, and Jan Kovářík. Support and crowd Jiří Novotný, Tomáš Kubát, Vlastimil Adam, Vladislava Vlčková, and Petr Hák with his vehicle Mr. Green. Idea and script Alan Ryvola. Directed by Alan Ryvola and Michal Habrda. Production Markéta Lissa. Slideshow Daniel Andy Habrda. Cinematography, editing and sound Michal Habrda. Photography Zdeněk Slovák and Jonáš Tajrek Blatunga. Music Michal Habrda. Our warm thanks go to Jan and Eva Vanchurovi, the overseers of the tower, Jara Novak from the restaurant and pension U Havrana, who lent us a table and chairs, Hanna Jeroušková from Tiflo Service for lending us white sticks, Eva Švecová for lending us skiing goggles. The introduction and cast were read by Chris Steer.